Right. Next little program is the one that says this demonstrates better output use and some if statements. Test how close to 100 floating points can be. So let's run it. Not as fun of a website, just a very straightforward text. Enter any number X to test whether it is bigger than 100. Try it. Notice that I have put in a sample value in my code that starts it off, but it's completely optional. So I'll start by just putting in 7 and clicking. And it says that is smaller than 100. And try another. And I'll just go put in 105 and click that. Yeah, it's bigger than 100. Try another. So now here's a couple of other things to try. If you put in something like D and click, it says that is not comparable to 100. Very nice. If I put in something like 6 plus A and click, it says that is smaller than 100. Well, interesting. It turns out that JavaScript is very forgiving. It allows you to input pretty much anything you like. It might fail to give you an output, and it can give you an error message that says not a number. But in this case, it looks like it's taking the 6 and forgetting the rest, the plus A, because it's just ignoring that. And it requires you to write in a bunch of error handling of your own if you want it to not have really unusual, unexpected outputs. I'll show you how I did that to get that not comparable answer, although I didn't do enough to get to rule out 6 plus A as being a possible input. So let's look at the source. As I open up the source of this, note that in this case, the input and output didn't completely erase the website. When I entered a number and it tested to see if it was bigger or smaller than 100, it kept the original sentence at the top, the enter any number, and just gave an answer. So I'll show you how that came about. So floating point tester. Gave it the same little function name again. It wasn't feeling very creative. And so here's the function is inside of the script tags, script and slash script at the end. The body is what starts it off, and it has the enter any number X to test whether it's bigger than 100. And then there's a new little thing called a output box, and well, that's my ID for it, and it has a division div tag for the beginning and start, and then underneath that I have the input type again. So you have something called an output box, and the output box is actually where I'm going to send the output. Originally, it just says try it. Now here's the input type again, is the little box and the on click. This time I did put in an initial value. It's an interesting initial value. We can mention it at the end. It has to do with how close a floating point number can be to another number, and the computer still be able to determine it. Something called floating point epsilon. So again, same as last time, I gave it a name, user num, and on click, it says run cool, and then it collects my num from user num, whatever the user had typed into that box, and creates a floating point number out of it. Then there's the if statement, which now you can see how that works in JavaScript. It's the same as any computer programming language, but it has its own syntax, of course. You put if, and then you put the condition in parentheses. And so if the condition evaluates to true, it will run the next thing, which will be in a curly bracket. So if x is less than 100 is true, then whatever's in the curly bracket runs. And the curly bracket is document.getElement by ID output box dot text content equals. So weirdly, it get element is good for both input and output. All right. And you can tell that's why it was a little bit odd when I have the input usernum and I say document.get element by ID usernum. I can't just leave it at that. It doesn't just get usernum and that's my value. I have to assign the value of that to a new variable called mynum. And that means I can use it for input and output. In this case, I'm using get element by ID, and I put in the quotes output box, which is the name of my little division output box down here. And then I say dot text content, and I set it equal to the answer that is smaller than 100, and try another. The other options were given by else if, and then there's a another condition, x equals is where it actually compares and doesn't set it equal to 100. It compares to see if it's true or false that it's equal to 100. And then I output it's equal to 100. Then the option for when it's bigger. And then finally, I did an error handling output. If it doesn't evaluate to true for one of those three, the final else will not need a condition. It will just immediately say that is not comparable to 100. Try another. So yes, your assignment will be to use this sort of input output with the output box where the output is written, and to modify the program where it finds sine x over x, and use this kind of input output method for that. And so it'll be mashing together the two programs. Shouldn't be too hard to do, but it's good to see it working. And next, we'll see a little bit of a graphical input output.